The first one was actually a trustee role, which was a bit of a gimme because it was a pension trustee of my previous employer. But in terms of other non-exec roles, the first two I got after the trustee role were from professional contacts at Big Four accountants. Funnily enough, not the Big Four accountant that I was with, but different ones, people I'd come across during my time at Yorkshire Building Society. As I say, I took on the pension trustee role as I retired from the Yorkshire. I then took on the Darlington Building Society, which was the PwC contact, and Engage Mutual, which is a small bespoke insurer, which was through a Deloitte contact. I then joined a small credit card bank called Vanquis, which was, again, I think through, if I recall rightly, was through a Deloitte contact who put me in touch with a headhunter. And I joined there as chair of audit committee. That was based in the city. And then I got a great one. Horse racing is my passion. I know the lady through my time at the Yorkshire who does all the non-executive recruitment for Jockey Club racecourses. And she said to me when I retired, "Would you like to do a race course?" And I said, "I'd love it." She said, "We'll wait till one comes up, but it will come up, but it might take time." And Nottingham Racecourse came up as an opportunity. So I went through the process there, and that was, I think, the fifth one that I got. And by this stage, we're at about 2013, so about 3 years after I'd retired from the Yorkshire. So I had basically a pension scheme, an insurance business, a building society, a bank, and a racecourse. And I leave it for people to assess which was the most fun of those five. So I got the five, as I say, over probably a 2.5 to 3 year period after retirement. And it became obvious pretty shortly afterwards that it was a bit too many. I wasn't quite full-time, but there were weeks where I was full-time and there were sometimes weekends. And I sat back and thought this wasn't quite what I wanted. So I did, within a couple of years of getting to five, I extricated myself from two of them, from the pension scheme and the insurance business. The insurance business was made easy because it merged with a business in Brighton. And so instead of being 12 minutes walk from my front door, became about 6 hours involving planes, trains and automobiles. So I then was down to three by about 2015, and I kept those going until the end of 2019, when I was sort of getting towards sort of my sell-by date on all of them in terms of chairing all the audit committees, and I'd done between 6 and 9 years on them, and it was probably time to step aside. So I stepped down at the end of 2019, looking forward to doing years travelling, and then COVID kicked all of that into the long grass. So I had a couple of years, as many people did, not doing very much because of COVID. Decided at that point I probably had one more role in me, but I was really looking for something in the third sector rather than a sort of, a vanilla non-executive role, particularly in FS. And I heard from a friend that the Epilepsy Society were looking for a trustee with financial experience, and as our younger daughter Imogen has epilepsy, it's a cause which is very close to our family's hearts, and it seemed just a great thing to get involved with. I wouldn't have done a charity unless I did feel some sort of connection with the cause, because it's another non-executive role. It's quite hard work. I chair the audit committee there. We have, 8 to 10 meetings a year. It's down near London, so there's travelling involved. It's pretty full on. But because it's, for us, a fantastic cause, it doesn't feel quite the same. It doesn't feel like work. It feels something sort of closer to home than that. And that's all I do now. But so effectively, I had the 6 roles over the course of the last 12 years. I think 3 was about the right number when I was sort of happy to spend quite a bit of my time working, because the reality is, as a non-exec, there's a rhythm to the month and the quarter and the year. So you can never disappear for 3 months at a time. And certainly in the job description, they'll tell you, oh, this is 2 days a month, 3 days a month. That is complete baloney. No non-executive role, certainly for the first year, is less than a week a month. By the time you've done your induction, by the time you've read the papers, by the time you've gone in for meetings outside the board and committee cycle. And that's why 5 was too many for me, and I sort of realised that pretty quickly. I think 2 or 3, for me, it was the right sort of commitment in terms of how long it took. And I think it's also helpful to have more than one, because you learn stuff from one that you can apply to the others. And everyone thinks you're terribly clever because you come up with a brilliant idea that you picked up from the other board that you sit on. It's actually really helpful to have 2 or 3. But more than that, you've got to be very, very keen on it. And you've got to have enough flexibility, because where there are issues, and certainly with one of them, we had a huge issue with the regulator, issue that went on for 2 years. And we were having weekly board meetings. So, when I joined, the job description said 8 meeting days a year. By the time I finished, we were having 50. So you have to be prepared that, what you're signing up for might actually be an awful lot more than it says on the contract. And again, that's why you need a bit of spare capacity in your time. And you've got to be willing to step up to the rate if you do that. You could run away. You could resign. You could say, oh, this is what I signed up for. But you'd probably never get another one. And you'd probably regret it, because you'd realise in the cold light of day you'd let people down.